Let's get to the ACC. Let's do some ACC predictions. So just so you know, we're going to keep this to the big dogs for all these conference previews that we do. We'll talk some Clemson. We'll talk some FSU. We'll talk some Notre Dame here. And then maybe a surprise in the conference. We'll try to kind of figure it out what we think they're going to do. First off, ACC, Aaron, give me and again, we're not even going to get into we can't get in over unders if you want anything. It's just kind of there's nothing strict about these previews. I want to get the feel how you think this team will finish going into the year. Clemson, how do you feel about them? You riled up the Tiger Hive not long ago, saying you think they could drop out the top 25 by years end.
I said something, and then I didn't say I thought top 25. I said top 10. I think they're somewhere in that round 15 range, which is pretty low.
It was some question about who could be the big fallers, because every year a team starts in the top 10.
I think Clemson could fall about 10 spots. I do. I don't think they're going to fall outside the top 20. But I think somewhere around 15 is a good spot for them. Obviously, they benefit from still being in the ACC, which is a pretty, as we know, the number 5 conference for all the Power 5. So that is a benefit. You put them in another conference, I think they're in big trouble this season. I think they could be an 8-14. I don't see it, especially on the offensive side of the football. They'll have a really good defense. They got a really good running back. And I know everyone keeps saying, well, look at Garrett Riley, look at the Rileys. If a Riley's your head coach or an offensive coordinator, you're going to put up stupid stats. And I'm sure they're trying to sell themselves that narrative.
Yeah.
But kind of what I saw last year from Klubnik, that is a massive jump for him to take. That isn't a simple year 1 to year 2, we're going to get better. He's going to be better than he was last year. Guaranteed. He'll be better. He's more experienced. He's getting all the reps. He's the guy. He's not having to compete with DJU, who's now at Oregon State. He should be a better quarterback this year. Yeah. Not arguing that. Is he a championship level quarterback? I don't buy that at all. And if you obviously want to win a championship, more times than not, it's going to come down to 2 things. One, you have to have an incredible defense, the transcendent defense, or you have to have elite quarterback play. I think their defense will be good. I think they'll be really good. I don't think they're going to be like the Georgia was 2 years ago, or an Alabama defense we've seen in the past, or even like an elite Clemson defense we've seen in the past. So what do you have to have in that? You have to have an elite quarterback. I don't think he's elite, and I don't think the receivers are going to help him out either. That's my worry with Clemson this year. Between quarterback, receiver, I don't see an offense that's going to just blow your blouse up. So I got Clemson at 10-2. I think it's a good year, 10-2. Win a bowl game, you're 11-2.
How old are you? Blow your blouse up? I think even skirt, blouse, or shirt. I mean, it works either way, but I've never heard that. So, but here's the problem. You could see Clemson drop it at 15, but 10-2 puts you in the top 10.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we're actually me and you feel the exact.
But it goes to the conference.
Everything as a negative. I think I'm painting it all as a positive. I think Clemson's still the big dog. They still lead the way with 7 players on the all ACC team. I think they easily win 11 games this year, at least. They get FSU at home, UNC at home, Notre Dame at home.
I think South Carolina won't be easy.
No, at South Carolina it's not easy. I agree, but it's a revenge game. Clemson's going to roll. That's their arch rival. They lost last year. Clemson's going to kick their ass that game. I think they went 10-3 last year with Kate Klubnik really struggling. So yeah, if you tell me that you add Garrett Riley in another year of season to Kate Klubnik, then yeah, you should be better than 10-3. So I think 10-2 floor with 11 in a bowl, and maybe 11-1 fighting for a playoff. But I think 11 wins, whether it's 2 losses or 1 loss, I think 11 wins is where
they make the playoffs.
No, because we're going to talk about Florida State. I think Florida State does. But
nice.
The most interesting question for the ACC.
You're saying they lose to Florida State, but they don't somehow drop one more during the season. You're saying they're going to.
I can see them dropping. I could see them dropping one of I could see them dropping one more somewhere in there and going 10-2.
So yeah, I agree with you. One thing, a 10-2 team.
That'll be a top 10 team if they win that bowl game. That'll be a New Year's 6 bowl team.
Yeah,
that'll be
Florida State's in the playoffs. I mean, if you're 10-2, yeah, you're somewhere on 10. But once again, that goes back to my argument. You're 10-2 because of the conference you're in, not because of the team you are.
I mean, yeah, but we can't really play that game. Sure, it's top of the conference, but that's still, they're still beating everybody else, right? So, No, I guess the most interesting question for the ACC is how much tie-breaking power you would have if you're a one-loss conference champion going against the other conferences, and that's where, to your point,
you're at the bottom.
yeah, that's where the weakness does come into play. So that's the Clemson read. What about Florida State? I guess you started last one. I'll start here. I believe Florida State ACC champs.
Yep.
The only thing that gets wonky with Florida State from a record standpoint is I'm not sure what happens in that LSU game. If they win, then it doesn't matter, right? But if they lose, then that could have some weird playoff implications down the road. But I think Florida State could be a one-loss ACC champion, maybe a no-loss ACC champion. First and foremost, I'm a massive Jordan Travis believer. You mentioned the fact that over the final 6 games of the year last year, no quarterback in the country had a higher QBR. How about this? Let's look at Jordan Travis's numbers from his last 19 starts. And I screwed this up. I should have copied the Twitter at like who originally tweeted this. David Hale, maybe. So I apologize for this, but we're gonna do a blind test here, and I'm gonna give you 19 games of stats where 2 Florida State quarterbacks. QBA, a 77.6 total QBR, 64 completion percentage, 8.5 yards per attempt, about 5,500 total yards, 45 touchdowns, 26 turnovers. Player B, 81 QBR, up from 77, 64 completion percentage, 9 yards per attempt, 5,100 total yards, 47 touchdowns, just 9 turnovers. Do you know which 2 quarterbacks I'm comparing there?
Jamison and Travis?
That is Jameis Winston and Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis' last 19 games are better than Jameis Winston's last 19 games were at Florida State. Yeah. And if you want to get into things like explosive rate, they have the same explosive rate, pretty ridiculous, like 18 or 19%. The point is Jordan Travis is psychotically efficient when it comes to the amount of volume of production that he creates with the pseudo limited touches, maybe compared to like Jameis, who had nearly 400 more total plays in that stretch. But he turns the ball over way less than Jameis. He's accounted for more touchdowns. Like Jordan Travis is great. And what happens then when you give him first team all ACC wide receiver and Johnny Wilson? You know, I love Keon Coleman. They brought up Michigan State, their Michigan State's best receiver. Winston Wright Jr. coming over from West Virginia, their best receiver to be in the slot. Trey Benson is the first team all ACC running back who averaged 11 touches for like 75-yard rushing a game last year. Again, hyper explosive and efficient.
Jaheim Bell at tight end from
Jaheim Bell, right? Jaheim Bell tight end now from South Carolina. The entire offensive line is made up of juniors and seniors. The entire team is. They got like 80% returning production. Like Florida State should be great. Florida State could potentially be championship good. They have the elite quarterback. They're good on the lines. They got elite weapons. Like I just don't see a weakness. So yeah, I'm saying FSU ACC champs.
I like ACC champs. My one worry is I think LSU is a better football team. You and I discussed that on our top 10 ranking. So if you missed that show, make sure you go back and watch that one. I think LSU is really, 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 really talented. That's why they came in at number 3 in our ranking setting into the season. I think LSU wins that first game. So my one concern is this: with a team that's been hyped up so much this offseason, as you know, you're going to slay that dragon. You're going to beat Clemson. You're going to win the ACC. You're going to have a chance to go to the playoffs. If you lose that first game, where do you go mentally? You know, because I remember before my senior year, we played Clemson week 1 and we lost that game, and it was demoralizing because all of a sudden, you know, even in a BCS era, it was worse. You know, then your margin of error significantly goes down. And there are tough games on their schedule. I mean, you do have to go to Clemson. You know, Duke is a good team, maybe wink, 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 my surprise team in the ACC heading into this season. You do have to play at Florida at the end of the season. You're better than Florida, but you still have to go to the Swamp in a rivalry game, and you were better than Florida last year, and you beat them by a touchdown at home. So I'm just saying my one worry is if and when I do think they lose in week 1, what does that do to the team psyche heading into the rest of the season? Can they still win the ACC? Yes. I think if they lose week 1, I don't think they make the playoffs though, because I do think they drop one more along the way.
So a couple of things. It's a valid concern mentally what you're talking about, but at the same time, I think if you have real like championship makeup, then you are a team that can overcome it by simply saying, look, we have a lot to play for. Okay. What are we going to do? We're going to be little sad, whiny boys and just lay down and be like, oh, it's over? Or are we just going to pick ourselves up and week by week focus on it? No, I mean, look,
the loser of that game won't make the playoffs.
Look, mathematically, that is you are correct. A 2-loss team has never made it, meaning you have no margin of error, but you could. I agree with you. Like, if we're just saying what will happen, I agree. The loser will not. But that's also, that could be because maybe the loser isn't as good as we're actually thinking they are as well, right? I mean, these are all preseason predictions. So no, I like mentally this team, and also this team went 3-3 before finishing very strong last year. Like mentally, this team should be able to overcome that loss and still accomplish their goals by simply telling themselves, look, all of our goals are still in front of us. But again, I don't think it's a guarantee that LSU wins.
I don't think it's a guarantee either. I think LSU's the better team, but it's like a 4-point spread right now. So I mean, it'll be a very competitive, close game. Hopefully less sloppy than the game we saw last year. I don't anticipate to see. I think if you watch both these games back to back,
kids that have
how
grown
are these the same two teams a year later? I mean, it is going to be so much more.
That's crazy to think about.
Professional like football game compared to the ugly mess, which was it was so ugly it was beautiful. What we witnessed last year in that first game between these two.
Yeah, they were basically like gangly teens going through puberty last year, and now they got abs and they're all jacked and confident and ready to fight. So we're high on FSU, higher than Clemson. The FSU, the Snaps thinks they're going to be ACC champs. Let's go to the Independents, who's kind of ACC, Notre Dame. And to me, Aaron, Notre Dame's one of the biggest wild cards in the country, and it's simply because last year was one of the weirdest wild card seasons I've ever seen. You started 0-2, looking good against Ohio State, and then losing to Marshall at home. Then you finish the season 9-2 from that point on, with like a dominant win over Clemson, but then with like a random 16-14 Stanford loss thrown in the mix. Like, this was as inconsistent of a team as I'd ever seen last season. What do you make of them this year?
Well, I mean, even the game versus who was it? Ohio State at the beginning of the season, they were in it too, and then
they look good. It's a good game.
Yeah, they look good. Then they lost to Marshall. It's like what? Listen, why did they lose those games last year? What was the missing piece? It's the quarterback spot.
Offense, quarterback. Yes.
Yeah, it was a quarterback. I don't even say it was the entire offense. I just think it was the quarterback. Now look at this guy.
If you're watching,
I pulled this picture up last night with Sharon saw it.
Instagram picture. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And it was Lights out afterwards.
No. Start that story again because I was talking over you. What happened yesterday?
Sharon saw me text this to you boys, and it was kind of like game on. So
you're saying your wife
imagine like a nicer, fluffier beard on me. Like if I could grow that beard, I think I could look like Sam Hartman.
Your wife had sex with you simply because she saw one Instagram post of Sam Hartman stretching his hip flexors.
I guess so. I don't know. It just coincidences don't really happen, right? When you're 4 years married.
He looks like a more rugged Disney prince. Like if Prince Eric, literally if Prince Eric grew a beard and had more lumberjack energy.
Do you think he'd be attractive if he didn't have the beard though?
It's tough to say. I don't know that it matters though, right? It's like one of my producers has been really stressed out about simulation theory, right? The theory that all this reality could just be like code and a simulation, whatever. I'm like, well, stop worrying about it, because if it is, then functionally it doesn't make a difference, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's a simulation or not. If it's coded well enough, then we never know. Like it doesn't matter. It is what it is. In that same way, I can't think about beardless Sam Hartman until I have to. Until then, I will continue to salivate over lumberjack Hartman. Look at this guy, dude.
I just saw a picture too on ESPN of Freeman with a nice high and tight bald fade too. I mean, those two combined, my goodness. All right.
Easily the best looking quarterback coach combination in the country. And it's not
even close. Not even close. I mean, it's not like there's not even like there. I don't even know if we even get into a second place because
I want you to compare that energy, Aaron, with Carson Beck energy from earlier in the show. Because here's Carson Beck. Now go back, Brum.
Yeah, but
that is what I'm talking about.
There's a 4-year starter who owns the ACC record. Yeah, I can definitely feel it too. Yep. All right, here we go. Back to our Notre Dame talk. What plagued Notre Dame last year? It was the quarterback spot, and now they have one of the best quarterbacks. I get, because I covered him the last game of the season, their bowl game down in Tampa. that he is transitioning to a different offense, an offense that's not as quote unquote QB friendly as the Wake Forest offense, that slow mesh where he got to hold the ball for 6 seconds while deciding what the hell you want to do with it.
QB friendly. It seems QB terrifying because
what is terrifying if your O line gets blown
down
up
the barrel of a gun and you just have to be like, hey, don't move, and then you move.
I would say depends on the given D line you're facing, but for the majority of the time, it literally makes the D line and linebackers kind of not move as you put the ball in the belly of the running back and decide what the hell you're going to do. So I would say more QB friendly than not QB friendly. The system is why they put up stupid stats. So
yeah, they do.
I think he'll transition just fine. I think he's a good enough quarterback to play in any type of offense. I'm not worried about him. I think this is going to be a good football team. I'm a believer in Coach Freeman. Seeing him and being around him when he was at Cincinnati and covering some of those games, knew that he was on the path to be a successful head coach. Had a good year one without the most important position in the world. I think year two, I don't think Notre Dame's a playoff team. I don't think so. I think you talk about margin of error, they have to go undefeated. And when you have games versus Ohio State,
they can lose one.
Versus USC,
they can lose one and go easily. They have a good enough.
But they need a lot of help, though.
I don't think they would need a lot of help. Like the help, it's a natural help that always come. Like I think a one-loss Notre Dame would get in over a one-loss ACC champion unless it was Florida State losing to a good LSU team.
A one-loss Notre Dame team would not get over a one-loss Big Ten, or not a one-loss Pac-12, Big 12, or ACC.
Man, that's bullshit. They probably have wins over USC and Clemson, or wins over Ohio State and USC. Like, what do you mean? And I guess I don't want to go too far down the hypothetical bandwagon. I have respect for Notre Dame's schedule. I think
do too. It is a very good schedule. I think a conference champion, a one-loss conference champion, unless it was a Clemson or Ohio State one-loss conference championship, which you beat, that's the discussion we'd get into. So yeah, it's definitely possible with one loss. I'm just saying it's more likely than not that a one-loss Notre Dame team is on the outside looking in at the end of the day.
I think that it's more likely than not that it ain't no one-loss Notre Dame team, unfortunately.
That too.
I love Marcus Freeman. I'm not worried about the defense. It's his side of the ball. I think the defense is going to be great. Now you add Sam Hartman. I'm not worried about losing Tommy Rees because you had Hartman. Hell yeah. At the end of the day, though, this schedule is the problem. Ohio State, USC, Clemson. At their peak, at their absolute peak, I think they win one of these three. I can't even see them winning two of these three. I think they probably lose all three. So 9-3 feels like a very realistic year for Notre Dame. Even if they win one of these three, maybe a slip up elsewhere. Yeah. I unfortunately and I feel like it's a really good year for Notre Dame as they continue to try to find themselves in the wake of the Brian Kelly era. I just wonder if Irish fans would feel the same. But 9-3 feels like exactly where they're going to land.
Well, I think it depends on what those losses look like. I think if you're 9-3 and they're all competitive games, I think you look at it as we're about to be a 12-team playoff the next year. We're in a prime position, especially the way he's recruited. They've done a great job recruiting. The way that Marcus Freeman is recruited, we're going to be a playoff team more times than not going forward. So I think 9-3, and if you can make those games competitive, I think fans should be excited. I do think I have them at 10-2. I actually have all three of these teams at 10-2. I have Clemson as a 10-2 football team. I have Florida State as a 10-2 football team. And I have Notre Dame as a 10-2 football team.
All right. Who do they weed out of those three?
Who do they beat?
Ohio State, USC, Clemson. Yeah. Who does Notre Dame beat?
Ohio State.
Oh, okay. That's a big boy right there. That's a pretty surprising prediction. Aaron, what's your surprise team for the ACC in 2023?
I think my surprise team is just because it's that we view them as a basketball school, but let's not forget they went 9-4 last year, and Elko was only his first year coaching. Returned the entire roster pretty much. Returned majority guys on both sides of the football. Returning starting quarterback who had a great year last year. I think Duke could have a good year.
There you go.
I think Duke. And let's temper expectation. I'm not saying Duke is going to win the ACC. I think Duke could win 8 games again this season. I think if you're 8-4 and you're Duke, and your back-to-back seasons going 8 wins with a chance to win 9 in a bowl game, I think that is massive for that program. So I think they have the talent to do it.
I must be boring because I look, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know shit about Duke's roster. I know two things. I know that I also chose them as surprise simply because I like the idea of Duke being good. And like you, I am pretty amazed by the Elko turnaround.
Yeah.
Going from 3-9 to 9-4. More importantly, going from 0-8 in the ACC, a bad ACC. They were 0-8 last year under Cutcliffe, then they go 5-3 year one. I just want to see if they can follow it up. Like if Duke's good, that's just cool, and that helps out a conference that needs some sort of meat to support its two big teams at the top.